Here's an update on the LA fires and how you can help. Hi, this is Denise from Vivid Lifestyle Realty, and first of all, I want to really, just send hugs and love and hearts and prayers to everybody on the ground in the Eaton and Palisades fire in LA. Like you guys all know, we're in Corona, California, which is about 45 to 50 minutes from there. And obviously, our neck of the woods have had, the last 5 years, we've had 3 really bad fires. And a few times you walk outside and you're like, I am literally in the movie Armageddon, because your pool, your backyard, your car, everything is just filled with ash. It's hard to breathe. People with respiratory issues or asthma have a really, really hard time. And then for weeks and months after that, those particles and different things are in the air that you're breathing. And so, you're worried about, am I going to have to evacuate? Am I going to, when I worked in education, our school overlooked the Cleveland National Forest, which is like, oh, how lucky are we that we get such an amazing view. But when it was on fire, and that's what the kids saw out their window when we were allowed to come back to school, that is not a pleasant thing. So I feel, your pain. We know how that is, and just like Florida, the trauma and the losing homes. It doesn't matter if it's fire or a hurricane or anything like that. It's devastation. It's devastating. And I do want to say on a positive note that firefighters, first responders, volunteers, private citizens, everybody that's on the outskirts, people in different states and countries, just always pull together. And I was talking to someone about this the other day. They pulled together to always help in all these states of emergencies, whether it's pandemic and it's a global thing that we're all pulling together and being resilient and having each other's backs, or whether it's fires on the East Coast or hurricanes or on the West Coast. We always come together as a country, as a world, and help each other out. And so I was saying that, on a general basis, please remember that feeling that you guys have when there's an emergency, and try to do that all year round. Like, we should always have each other's backs. We should always be okay with people's differences, and we should always help those in need, even when we're having a phenomenal year or week. Somebody else is not. So it's always good, like I say in a lot of videos, please, when you help others on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly, for whatever you can do, whether it's a phone call, some flowers, thinking about them, at the grocery store and picking up a few items, helping someone carry something in. Just always, it fills your buckets, but it also fills theirs. So just, always be mindful that working in education with special education for almost 20 years, that one person and little things that you can do, like a hug, a smile, listening, can make such a huge difference for that person or that student in so many different ways. So one person can make a difference. If we come together globally, we can make such a difference and make amazing things happen. So my heart goes out to everybody out there that has lost. And usually firefighters are so amazing with having such little amount of anyone getting hurt or any structures being damaged. But man, the winds have been worse than we've ever seen them. Usually we have stronger, but like Santa Ana winds where they're warm. This just came in like a blaze. We are still having terrible winds a week later that, like, you go outside, my dog's 80 pounds. Well, we have 3, but our biggest baby's 80 pounds. He goes out and he's like, whoa, like he can barely move. It's that windy. So when you're talking about a fire, when winds come in, it sweeps, okay, it's going in this direction. We can do this, make a fire break, do all these things. And then whoosh, these 50, 80, 90 mile per wind or per hour winds swoop in and blow it the completely different directions, which is why they're having so much. I also get a little upset sometimes when, my son's 29, many of his friends have applied for the fire, they're EMTs and they apply for the fire, to be a firefighter in any part of California. And sometimes they wait 2 years to hear back. And these are great, I call them kids still, but they're great people, great young men and women that like really went for it in school and all of it. They were just at the top of their class. And we are so short on firefighters that every time, which is a lot the last 7 years, we have these horrible, devastating fires. We've had to call other states, other firefighters from other states. And I think that's one thing too. Or the firefighters we have are giving every single thing that they have to make to make a difference. And that should not be the case with a humongous state like a huge state that we live in. There should be ample firefighters. And that I think we need to have, and also having the government do the fire breaks and the things that they need. When you're talking about going through a real estate transaction, and there's hundreds of forms, more than any other state, and they're so anal about things, and you try to lease a property and they can get away with that, they can do this, they can do that. Safety needs to be the number one priority. So right now there's a lot of people actually in the Eaton Fire, which is in Pasadena. The Pasadena area is still LA County. It is, they're suing California Edison for when there was red flag alerts, and these are individual people, red flag alerts and warnings and high fire potential, that they didn't shut off the power sooner. So those types of things, there's nothing proven. They need to be able to see the equipment to see what happens, but a lot of times they can't get to that right now because it's not safe. And so those are some of the things that are going on. I'm not taking a side whether right or wrong, that I'm just letting you guys know what's happening. They also have the fire started on January 7th up in the Palisade Hills in LA. And it really rushed. And so there's a lot of, just a lot of backstory. So they have that like taped off with the yellow crime tape. So they're still they're still investigating, which happens with all the fires, as to what happened. So they might be checking equipment from California Edison. They might be checking for arson. I mean, they're going to do their whole investigation, but sometimes when you have to get into the certain areas because of safety, they can't. So investigations can take a long time, and a long time after, just like damage, it just gets worse as the fire ends, because then they can go through and uncover everything. So that has been, a really hard thing, but luckily they are investigating on all fronts. And I just wanted to give you a few, insights. Also, these are from a lot of reputable sources, as far as CNN or the New York Times or, CBS, NBC. So, I'm just taking a lot of that information and trying to convey it to you. Things might not be 100% or, close to that, because they're not going to know until they really go in there for casualties and, or fatalities, and exactly the number of homes and structures that were damaged or destroyed. But it is a lot. So I really want to talk today kind of about what is happening, where the fire's at, and then where the fires are at. And there's 4 right now, but these are the 2 major ones. And then how you can help, because Pretty Good Boy shout out to them. Mwah, thank you for that. And Lynette, she is one of our Leave the Leash is our dog trainers. We have a full video on them too if you're looking for that, because I know that can be really hard if there's pups not getting along or anything. But our Leave the Leash community and our family are there for each other. They're there to support animals of all kinds and people, and just such an amazing, amazing community. So shout out to our Leave the Leash family. Mwah, mwah, to you too. But Lynette from our Leave the Leash family was going down to LA, and we all contributed, whether it was money or tons and tons of toys, collars, leashes, beds, everything for our furry babies and the furry babies, not our furry babies, but the furry babies that were affected in the fire. Shelters get overwhelmed. People are displaced, but they still have their furry babies. Some of them are injured or got burned. And so she packed up her whole van, and you couldn't even see. It was packed to the tippy top, the entire thing. And so she drove down to LA. Thank you so much again. And thank you for, you're always kind of putting yourself in harm's way if you're going near, things that are burning with winds. So what an amazing heart. Thank you so much. We all donated so much. Everybody around the world is donating and sending items and doing amazing things so that after the fact, it's going to be easier to rebuild, just like Florida and the rest of it. The rebuilding part is really hard, and it's far from over, and it will take a long time. So anyway, Pretty Good Boy is the pet store in LA. They took all the donations, and they're going to be bringing them to all the spots that people were able to find shelter, and shelters that opened up to take all the people and animals that were affected. And they're passing them out to those in need and other shelters. So thank you just across the board for that. Also, just to kind of give you a little backside on the fire if you're not up to date. Between the two fires, the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire, Eaton is in Pasadena, and like I said, and the Palisades is in LA. There's been over 37,000 acres that have burned. And just to put that in comparison, one of the articles I read said the city of Boston is a pretty good sized city. It's 31,000. So we are, it is burned far beyond that. At least 12,000 structures have been damaged or destroyed, which is historically so, way up there. There's 24 plus people that have not made it through, and several other injuries. Over 150,000 people have had to evacuate their homes, which is also an astronomical number. And like I said, we've been through this before. It's not pleasant for kids and families, and like when you lose your home, it's not, you're getting what's important for the most part is your family and your people and your pups and everything. There was one picture where a firefighter was holding some dogs by the collar, and he had a hose, and then he called someone over, and then he picked him up like a baby and carried him off. And I'm like in tears saying like, my gosh, like that is dedication, trying to save everybody, because I am a severe animal lover. I love animals and I love dogs, and I would probably go into a burning building for people and for animals. So, I respect them so much, and thank you for saving that pup, because they get scared and they could run right back into the fire. But, just the hearts of firefighters and everybody that is helping animals and people and sending money and donating and praying, like it means so, so much. So, over 20, like I said, 24 people have died, and there's tons of injuries. So once again, hugs, healing thoughts, and hearts go out to all of you, and love. So it does remain, like I was saying, they're not saying what started it, and there's a lot of investigations on all fronts going on right now. What is really hurting the firefighters is some of them hooked up to fire extinguishers, fire hydrants, and they were dry, which is also crazy insane. So low water supply, super gusting winds, and usually, like I said, I was like, oh well, they're cold winds, and it's been cold. It was 44 this morning for California. That's super cold. But they it really, like, is the cold gusting wind, it's not mattering for when you have a burning inferno. It's just the gusts that are mattering. The warm winds would probably make it even worse, so I'm grateful for that. And then super dry conditions. I am telling you, people out there, we have not had real rain since, like, I don't know, April of last year, or maybe even before that. We have had such little rain. From El Niños, you know, and different things like that. They said we were going to have a dry, colder winter, which is great when you think about cold, but like the lack of moisture. So some days when we are in the 80s or 70s, like here we go again, gusting winds and warm. And so the water into the ground is so, you know, so important. Also, insurance companies out there, give Californians a break over here. Like, the state, someone help people out. Like, people don't. And then if I recommend to all of you, just like I would done to myself and everything, just brought this up to everybody. If you had an insurance policy and you have your house for 10 or 15, 20 years, over the pandemic, things shot up as far as values, and they went up very quickly. Some values doubled in a 2-year period. So please look over your insurance policies. That's with our rentals or anything else, and make sure that you're covered so much more above your house or at your new rate, so that there is, if your home burns down or something happens to your home, you are fully covered to build another one, because a lot of these people didn't check their policies, and they like, you know, you might do 800,000, but now your house is worth 1.2 million. Well, that's going to be such a problem. So hopefully the state will dive in and help with that, because it, you know, it is a problem. But check your insurance policies every couple of years, and please adjust them as necessary. And for any buyers out there, or anybody in the fires, if you are going anywhere in Southern California, before when you're seriously looking, start looking for homeowners, for homeowner insurance companies, because State Farm, and they have caps on farmers insurance. State Farm left the state. It has been very hard for buyers. So immediately when I meet someone, I'm like, I know this sounds silly, but start doing your research on home, because if you're getting on home insurance, because if you're getting a loan, you have to have that, or the loan won't go through. Anyway, so we're gonna get into first of all, with the weather and how dry we're having it, they said more could be on the way. So I'm really just, please, you know, send in all the love to, hopefully the winds will die down and that will not happen. The Eaton fire in Pasadena is 35% contained, thank goodness. But with winds and dry conditions, you just never know. Those poor, I mean, literally firefighters are getting dropped off in a wooded, you know, like bushes and you know, a whole bunch of foliage, and they're getting dropped off in the middle of like a mountain, like, okay, you know, here you go, here's a hose. So also civilians are stepping up, and they're helping them fight the fires too, if there's shortages. So good job, civilians. Just keep yourself safe and don't go, you know, where you're gonna get hurt. That won't help anybody. But that's amazing that civilians are stepping up. My husband was in the Marine Corps for 8 years, and they would, if there were fires, they would say, hey guys, okay, and they'd deploy them out to a mountain, and they'd help as, you know, not firefighters, but as you know, military or civilian, and they made a big difference too. So if you can help, you know, just maybe firefighters can give you some pointers, and that's amazing. So thank you for doing that. But the Palisades fire is 35% contained, and the Palisades fire, pardon me, is 17% contained, and the Eaton fire is 35% contained as of today. So they have a long way to go on both of those. Just hang in there, firefighters and their families, and all the first responders and their families, and the people that are affected. At least they're making progress, which is so good, because for a while it just wasn't contained at all. And the winds are supposed to die down, but they've already said that like 6 times, and it keeps going. If you have allergies or asthma or anything, it affects me a lot as well. The air quality is really bad from the strong winds and from fire residue. So please make sure that if you guys need to wear a mask or get inhalers or anything that you need to do, that you're taking care of yourself for those that aren't in the fire as well, because the surrounding areas get some backlash from air quality as well. But anyway, so they are really working hard to get this under control, even with the winds. I think it's great progress. And there, so ways to donate, let's just dive right into that. American Red Cross is always an amazing one. I would do most of your donating on reputable sites online, so at least you have a record of everything. Don't give or do anything when someone's texting you, or if you aren't familiar with the company, or something online, like, on Facebook, or if you're not 100% sure, please don't put yourself out there. Hopefully there's not any scammers out there that are going to take advantage of such a horrible situation, but there always kind of is. So just be very careful that. And then also American Red Cross, like I said, if you're ordering Starbucks, if you're on your homepage, you can scroll down, and right there they give you, tax records, receipts, and everything right as soon as you're done, and that's what you want to look for. But please be specific for whether you want it to go to the LA fire, that they'll otherwise it just kind of goes to anyone in need, which is still amazing. But make sure if you're specifically wanting to donate to the fires and the victims that you're going, you're being very, very specific. World Central Kitchen helps with food everywhere. They're amazing. You can go on their website, World Central Kitchen, and they're only allowing donations on their website, so you can be very confident and secure that that's safe. They're really, anything that you can donate is amazing, but they're really looking for specific things, because if you're sending just random things, sometimes they have so much of one thing and not enough of the other. So some of the things that they had said that were in need were diapers, wipes, and I'm sure wipes too, not just for kids. I'm sure adults in that situation, they need to wipe up, and maybe they don't have access to showers as much. So, baby wipes, like for everyone, hair brushes and all sorts of toiletries, like shampoos and deodorants and whatnot for males and females, hair brushes, towels, and things like that are very, very much in need. So if if you're sending things, those are great things to do. But if you're sending financial help, I'm sure they have people on the ground that are purchasing the items that they really, really need. Also, a lot of American Legions are helping. The YMCA Distribution Center at Pasadena City College was taking tons and tons of donations. And then like pet stores, like I was saying before, like Pretty Good Boy, Leave the Leash, anybody that's asking, like organizations, if you're heading to LA, just go to a big organization, ask your neighbors, and people will help. And they're grateful that you're bringing it there, but people will help you out and give the things that you need to bring to help people's lives better in this situation. Also, like we've donated a lot for animals, for people, monetary and etc. But they said if you can be on the ground out there volunteering, if you live in the general area, helping like that means more than what you know. If you go into the shelters or where people, shelters that they've created for the families and the victims and the evacuees, then you can really help those people with things they need, or a hug, or just in person. It helps so much. So that's very much a need as well. And then if anyone has extra shelter, maybe you have an ADU, you're not using a rental property that's in the general area, that really has been helping people out as well. And like I said, reach out to your neighbors, your friends. If, take a trip up there, anything that you do, any little thing, if you volunteered 5 hours, if you gave 10 things, it makes such a big difference. And they said not just now, but long after the fires are put out, people are going to need help. It's a crisis for a long time. And so just keep on doing what you're doing, giving, filling their buckets, filling your buckets, and making a big difference. And so there's also a list we're going to include in the show notes of other ways that you can donate and help that are reputable sites that have been, CNN or CBS or any of those things have vetted these particular ways to help, and these organizations, and just, send your love and prayers, get the word out there, and always love on your first responders. So my heart goes out to everybody once again, and please be safe. Please love and hug your family, and please have ways that you know how to exit your home. If somebody gives you a warning to evacuate, please evacuate, because you never know how fast something can just change in a minute. And then also have things ready to go that are very important. And you can include some family photos and everything that you don't think about including in your important paper, thing to grab. But and the most thing is, get your family and your furry babies out, because everything else can be, replaced or recovered, even though it's devastating, but people can't be, or animals can't be. So love to all, and I hope this helps, and donate, give in any way you can, and have a wonderful rest of your day.